السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله خالق الوجود من العدم، وجاعل النور من الظلم، ومخرج الصبر من الألم، وملقي التوبة على الندم، ونشكره على المصائب كما نشكره على النعم، والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الأمين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين، أما بعد. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. We are continuing with the last session that we had, and that was on the topic of talabul ilm. Talabul ilm basically means seeking knowledge. Now here in the hadith, does knowledge refer to biology, physics, chemistry, mathematics, quantum mechanics? What do you think? Does it refer to physiology, psychology, philosophy, zoology, botany, embryology? No. It refers to the study of the haqq, the study of the waqi', the study of the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we talked about the importance of seeking this knowledge. We learned about how emphasized it is in our religion to actually seek out and learn about the Holy Quran, seek out and learn about the ahadith. And my dear brothers and sisters, we live at a time where ignorance is prevailing. It's prevailing. A simple example of this can be seen when we ask people about their role models. I used to teach while back in college, while I was studying, I used to teach in madrasa. So I used to have the, opportunity to actually speak with a lot of little kids, first standard, second standard, third, fourth, and fifth, right? So I used to speak to them and I used to ask them, insightful questions just to know what their responses are, right? And, I asked a very simple question, and that is, how many well-known figures do you follow in your life? Or how many well-known figures do you actually know? And everyone rose, their hands, like little kids, right? Like they're very, very energetic. So they all raised their hands and they started saying the name of a lot of celebrities, a lot of cricketers, a lot of footballers, and a lot of movie stars, a lot of filmmakers, and all these people. And then I, asked, just to turn the discussion into another orientation, I asked them, how many scholars do you know? How many scholars do you know? Subhanallah, like it was very little. The amount of people or the amount of little kids who raised their hands to this question was very, very little. And that actually shows the sad reality of our time. There was a time in the Muslim civilization in which if we had asked the children at that time the question, who do you want to be, or who do you follow, or who is your role model? They would raise their hands and they would say, أريد أن أكون مثل أحمد بن حنبل أو محمد بن إدريس الشافعي أو إمام مالك بن حنبل أو إمام أبو حنيفة. I want to be like Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal. I want to be like Imam Muhammad Idris al-Shafi'i. I want to be like Imam Abu Hanifa. I want to be like Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah. I want to be like Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah. They would raise their hands and they would happily and cheerfully say that they want to be like the scholars. But today, the table has turned in a very, very different direction. Let me ask you this question. How many scholars do you know? I don't want you to comment their names in the chat, but I would just want you to give me a number. How many scholars do you know? How many scholars do you know? Give me an approximate number. Okay, we have 4, 3, 4, 6, 15 to 20, mashallah. 10 plus. All right. So the more scholars we know, it actually shows our connection with talabul ilm. Because when we actually seek out knowledge, when we travel, or when we, put in effort to actually find knowledge, we'll actually come into contact with a lot of great scholars. And the more we learn from these scholars, the more we get attached to our religion, the more our love and our mahabba for the religion increases and improves. And therefore, it is part of our deen to actually respect the scholars. It is part of our deen to respect the scholars. Why? Because al-ulama'u waratha'ul anbiya. Al-ulama'u waratha'ul anbiya, which basically means scholars are the inheritors of the prophets. scholars are the inheritors of the prophets. So when the scholars die, that is a very, very sad thing. And it was also a very sad movement, I should say, the past 1.5 week. So before the past 1.5 week, the sheikh who taught me, he died. And his name is Sheikh Dr. Osama Abdulazim Hamza. He used to be a professor of Usul Fiqh in Azhar University. And I actually used to live with him. I used to live with him inside his masjid. And subhanAllah, it's astonishing to actually see, like, with your eyes, the life of a scholar. Because usually when we see scholars, we just see them on YouTube, or maybe, when they're giving khutbahs, right, in the Jum'ah, or, when they're having their dars, that's when we see them, right? But it's very rare we get the opportunity, especially at this time. In the olden age, like, it was very common, but today, to actually see the life of a scholar 24/7, it's a very rare opportunity. And Allah blessed me with that opportunity. So I used to live with him in his masjid. And the masjid was in a place called as a Tunsi in Egypt. It's actually a place near to Tahrir. And it's amazing. And I was mind blown just by, like, watching him. I used to stare at him. I just used to stare at him to see what he does. So, he wakes up in the morning. He actually sleeps with us on the carpet in the masjid. And this is not a normal scholar. This is like one of the greatest scholars in Egypt, one of the topmost scholars in the Shafi'i madhab, a student of Imam Nasiruddin Albani. And he used to sleep with us on the carpet of the masjid. His salah used to be very long. In his Maghrib prayer, when we stand, behind him, like, we will actually used to get tired, literally tired. And he was actually a man, was more than 80 years old. And when we see him walking, he walks very slowly because his legs can't, handle the weight of his body. Like, that's how old he has gotten. But yet, when he's praying, for the Maghrib and for the Isha, he recites 2 juz' in 1 rak'ah. Like, it's amazing. It's mind blowing. And whenever we see him inside the masjid, like, he's constantly reading the Holy Quran. And every 6 days, he used to finish 1 khatm of the Holy Quran. His knowledge was really, really deep, subhanAllah. And he passed away last week. You may or may not have known, it was very, like, he had a lot of talamid, a lot of students. And his janazah was attended by, like, thousands and thousands of students. I do remember, while I got the news of his death, I was actually in a place called as Hayy al-Ashar. And I just, suddenly got the news of his death. And I rushed to his masjid. And when I got to his masjid, like, it was filled with his students, because he taught for 30 years. It was filled with his students. And his students are not just normal students. His students are scholars of Egypt. The masjid was filled. Everyone was reciting the Holy Quran. Everyone was, reading their salat. And throughout the night, the masjid was just alive. And in the morning, like, wherever I looked, I would just see, like, waves of people, thousands and thousands of people. And that actually shows the impact that this scholar left on the ummah. Subhanallah. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Qadarullah ma sha'a fa'al. The Prophet ﷺ said, Allah does not take away the knowledge by taking it away from the hearts of the people, but he takes it away by the death of the religious learned men, till when none of the religious learned men remains. Subhanallah. Now let me ask you a question. Does anyone of you know any scholar who died today? Anyone know a scholar, a very prominent scholar? He used to be called the Ibn Taymiyyah of our times. A very brilliant scholar. And what's more shocking is actually from India. And India is actually very famous for scholarship. A lot of people, they just think that when they think about scholars, it's just in the Arab countries. It's in Egypt, Yemen, Saudi, Kuwait, and Qatar and Bahrain. No, India actually has a long-standing tradition of knowledge. And here, after the death of my Sheikh Osama Abdulazim, I came to Subq al-Ahad to study under Dr. Sheikh Raslan. And here, I'm the only Indian here. And, instead of calling my name, they basically call me Al-Hindi, the Indian. They just call me the Indian, right? And when I say that I'm from India, Like the amount of respect I get, like it's astonishing, because all of them know the deep tradition, the deep intellectual tradition that the scholars of India had in the intellectual Islamic paradigm. Subhanallah. Subhanallah, it's amazing. It's amazing. So Sheikh Uzair, who was known as Sheikh Uzair, he died, was known as Ibn Taymiyyah of our time. It's a very sad reality. So a lot of scholars are dying. A lot of scholars are dying, and that actually points towards the importance of us taking a stance and turning our life around by seeking knowledge. By seeking knowledge, because we live in a time of immorality, modesty, and immaturity. We live in a time where LGBTQ activism is growing, like it's just blowing up. It's just blowing up. Liberalism is affecting the society very deeply, very deeply. Subhanallah. Subhanallah. So we got to educate ourselves. If you need to guide your children as a father, if you need to provide support for your children intellectually as a mother, you got to know the deen. You got to know the deen, brother. You got to know the deen, sister. You might have learned engineering for 4 years and MBBS for 5 years. You might have learned psychology, physiology, philosophy, sociology, or any other subject that you have been pursuing. You might be a student of biotechnology. You might be a student of computer science. But when you have children and when it's time for you to guide them, if you don't have the ilm of the deen with you, you can expect your children to deviate. That's what's going to happen. And I see this on a daily basis. Not at the moment, because I don't take counseling cases. But when I used to see that on a daily basis. Parents coming and crying about their children. And these parents, they never even bothered to send their children to madrasas. They just thought, come on, like madrasas, like it's what is it, olden times? What is it, 14th century? Should we be sending our children to madrasa? It's a waste of time. We should just focus on the school. The student also, our child already has enough to study. Academics is really weighty and heavy. We don't need to send a child to madrasa. Have you ever heard parents say that? Or have you ever seen such a narrative being spoken in the society, when which they devalue religious education, when which they devalue anything that is in religious orientation? It's a very sad reality. It's a very, very sad reality. I know a lot of liberal parents as such. And then they come and they cry and they say that my child has started doing drugs. My child has gotten into certain relationships. My child is doing this and my child is doing that. And they're just crying and crying and crying, but it's too late. It's too late. The child is 18, 19, 20, and like he's gone off to another country for education. Like, do you think it's still possible for you to turn him back just by giving him advices on the phone? Subhanallah, it's a very, very sad reality. It's a very sad reality. So we need to educate ourselves. We need to educate ourselves. At the same time, I have seen the happiness in the eyes of the parents when their child memorizes the Holy Quran. And that kind of happiness, subhanallah, it's on another level. It's on another level. They say, Alhamdulillah, with tears of joy coming out of their eyes. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us all such children who will memorize the Holy Quran, children who will pray for us after we die, children who will give sadaqah on our behalf. Subhanallah. So we should all keep this in our prayer. But at the same time, for us to have such children, we need to do talabul ilm. We need to seek the knowledge. And don't worry, some people, they think that, since I've chosen engineering, since I've chosen medicine, since I've chosen other subjects, the door is closed. No, the door is not closed. And upcoming, slides, I will explain what are the different ways you can choose to pursue knowledge, even today, inshallah, with all your examinations and all your academic stuff going on in the other side. But whenever you seek knowledge, first and foremost, just like I always mention, and I already mentioned it in the last class, you need to have sincere and sound intention. This is very, very important. We already covered the topic of intentions in the last class, so I don't think we'll need to be covering that now. Now, we live in a time where ignorance has prevailed. A lot of people, due to their own ignorance, they start baking up knowledge. If you need to know, or if you need to see the problem with ignorance, following anything in the religion with complete taqleed and blindness, without individual study, you just need to go to certain parts of North India, where they have certain celebrations. They call themselves Muslims, or they have certain celebrations which are exactly like the Hindus. Like they have these huge festivals. They have these huge festivals, and they think that this is the deen. If you go to Indonesia, like if you go to certain parts of Indonesia, like you just get really shocked. You just get really shocked. They call themselves Muslims, but the thing that they're following is completely different. Thing that they're following is completely different. Now that's another calamity. But the other calamity we have is people who just seek knowledge maybe like a few months, and then they think that they have become, scholars. Like they have become huge mashaykhs and muhaddithin, and they start a YouTube channel. They start a YouTube channel, they start an Instagram page, and then they start, the da'wah. And slowly the trend that we see is they get into the refutation culture. They get into the refutation culture. These are keyboard warriors who call scholars, dhal and mudil. They call them, they make tabdi' and takfir of the scholars. Subhanallah. Subhanallah. It's understandable. Like, okay, we are living in a debate culture. Like we have a debate culture. How many of you know a Hyde Park Speaker's Corner? How many of you know Hyde Park Speaker's Corner? Like it's very famous in the UK. Hyde Park Speaker's Corner is really good. It's really good. A lot of the debates that happen in there is really great. It's great to watch. But the thing is, this trend, this culture of debate has actually triggered a trend of people who are ignorant getting into the debate platform, and they really don't know the ethics of debate. They really don't know ethics of debate. And I speak very regretfully because I've done this myself. I do remember while I was in 6th or 7th standard, I used to watch a lot of these debates, and it used to pump me up, like it used to fill me with energy. And what I was like, I was an ignorant child. I was in 5th standard or 6th standard, and my brother, who was much more learned than me, like he used to have these constant debates with atheists and Christians and other religions. So me also, I started a Facebook account, and I used to join the Christian groups and atheist groups, and I used to have this constant back and forth. Like subhanallah, now when I look back, I just feel a lot of regret, because the ethics that I maintained was not the ethics of Islam. And a lot of our young brothers and sisters, they fall into this trap. They just fall into this trap, and they just constantly make videos refuting this and them, right? Calling the people with a lot of different bad labels. A lot of these different bad labels. So we got to be very cautious of young da'is with half-baked scholars knowledge. At the same time, if other people are making videos or getting into debates, are we supposed to judge them? Like we're supposed to call them out and say, "Oh, you have not done talabul ilm, or you have not done this and that. You don't have the credentials and qualifications." All right. If there are genuine scenarios, you can contact them privately and give nasihah. But at the same time, you're not supposed to judge them, but you're supposed to pray for them. You're supposed to pray for them. The Prophet ﷺ always used to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for ikhlas. At the same time, like this is a very, very important point. And the things that I'm going to say now shouldn't be taken out of context. All right. And if anyone comes into your mind, like very directly, just understand that I'm not indicating anyone. I'm speaking in a very general perspective. All right. Understand that not all speakers are scholars. All right. Not all speakers are scholars. Some people have the ability to actually give a long speech in a very beautiful manner. It's very attractive. It's fun to actually sit in their classes, to actually listen to their lectures and to listen to their words. It might also have a lot of wisdom, but they are not scholars. If you need to know, a mas'ala of fiqh, a mas'ala of the fiqh, you go to a scholar, not a speaker. And very sadly today, we have, the trend of celebrity culture, just like it has affected the film industry and all these industries, it has also transferred to the industry, or I shouldn't say industry, but the culture of scholarship, where in which people just do taqleed. They just blindly follow everything and anything that is being said. Some people may have millions of followers and the ability to speak well, but that is not a proof of scholarship. When you are doing talabul ilm, you take knowledge from scholars and not from a few YouTube clips, no, or by just reading a few articles on the internet by God knows who. So take ilm from the right people. And seeking knowledge, we talked about the importance of intentions in the last class, but I'm just touching on it now. I'm just touching on it now. A lot of people, they seek knowledge with a lot of different intentions. All right. Some people may want to seek knowledge to actually get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Some people just, want to seek knowledge. Maybe, they can get to a certain role or a certain job. But some people, they seek knowledge so that they can become very famous, very famous. And that's a very sad reality. It's a very sad reality. وَلَا تَشْتَرُوا بِآيَاتِي ثَمَنًا قَلِيلًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to Bani Israel, don't sell my words, my ayats, don't sell my religion for a small price, So be very, very cautious of this. Don't seek knowledge for fame. Don't seek knowledge for fame. And then today we have the trend of something that I would like to label as speakers of hell. Speakers of hell. It was narrated that Jund ibn Abdullah al-Azdi, the companion of the Prophet ﷺ, said, he heard the Prophet ﷺ say, the likeness of the scholar who teaches people good and forgets himself is that of a lamp which gives light to the people but burns itself. So if you seek knowledge so that you can just speak to a lot of people and get famous, you're like this lamp that burns and gives light to people, but is of no use. And it's a Sahih Hadith narrated by Tabrani in Mu'ajam al-Kabir. It's classed as Hasan by Albani in Sahih al-Taghrib wa Tarhib. So this is also very important, something very important. So when you seek knowledge, the first and foremost intention should be what? What should be the first intention? Can you tell me what the first intention is? It should be to apply it in our own lives. It should be to first apply it to our own lives. Like that is mandatory. Like that should be the first thing. If you learned about tahajjud, instead of you just going out there and giving a speech about tahajjud, like your primary aim now is to implement that. When we learn the history of the Sahaba, we see Sahaba or Ashab of Rasulullah, like they're taking a lot of time to actually learn the Holy Quran. Like our Sahabis, like who just learned Surah Al-Baqarah for 8 years. And we'll get astonished, like why did it take you that much time to actually learn Surah Al-Baqarah? And they would say, like they would just memorize 8 verses or 10 verses. They would learn about it, they would think about it, they would do tadabbur on it, and then they would apply it in their life, and then they move on to the next verses. Subhanallah. So let's not be speakers of hell. When we seek knowledge, our first intention should be to apply it in our own lives. If not, then we are from the people of hell. Just like Shaykh Aslan used to say, لا تكونن وليا لله في العلن وعدوا لله في السر. لا تكونن وليا لله في العلن وعدوا لله في السر. Which means, don't be an ally of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the public and be an enemy of him in the private. You may be a person who may be having an Instagram page doing da'wah. You may be a person who is giving a lot of lectures, or you may be a person who might be posting Islamic things on WhatsApp or whatever social media. But just look into your personal life. Are you following it? Are you seriously doing what you're preaching? Are you practicing what you're preaching? Subhanallah, this is a question that should make the hair on the back of our shoulders stand. And there was a hadith, I could not, include it in this in the presentation. But it was, when the Shaykh was giving a dawrah, a halaqa, and he just recited, he just read the hadith out loud and he started crying. He just read the hadith and he started crying. And it was about the importance of practicing what we preach. It was about the importance of practicing what we preach, and the hadith included the punishment for the people who did not practice what they preach. And this is from the hadith. I don't want to paraphrase it because it's a hadith supposed to give you this, clear text, but I couldn't find the time to include it in the presentation here. But just understand that for the people who just, seek knowledge just to, get famous and not follow it in their life, for them are punishment that is really, really severe. Now, there's another aspect to this. Some people, when they say, hear these hadith, they just think to themselves, subhanallah, if I seek knowledge and if I don't practice it, I will go to hell. And they just stop seeking knowledge. Do you think that's a justification to stop seeking knowledge? To stop seeking knowledge? And like, I do remember something that happened in my childhood. It was actually when I was in Kerala. I don't know what age it was, but that memory is like, it's there in my mind. Uh, like my mother was standing to my right, like we were just standing at the corridor of the home, and a neighbor lady, she came to speak with my mother. Like while she was leaving, like my mother said something, and following to that, my mother just asked, uh, "Are you continuing your hifl?" And the lady, like she said, "No, I'm not doing the hifl now." And my mother asked, like, "Why? Why did you stop your hifl?" And she said, "I heard a hadith that said that if we forget what we memorize, then we'll be punished." And then she just stopped doing hifl altogether. Like subhanAllah, I was like, that memory is still there in my mind. Like I was just thinking, like, what is this? Like, isn't that foolishness? It is foolishness. It is foolishness. So we should not, bring up these justifications, saying that if I seek knowledge, if I seek knowledge, I'll have to practice it. So let me not seek knowledge. If I memorize the Holy Quran, I should keep on revising it. If I forget it, I'll be punished. So let me not, learn the Holy Quran. Like these are waswas of shaitan. So say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitan rajim, and then go ahead. And then go ahead. But for the people, who felt a sense of fear in their heart, let me give you a good news, good tidings. That feeling of fear that you had in your heart is actually a good sign. It is a sign that you have iman in your heart. And it is a very, very beautiful thing. Because for the munafiqeen, for the kuffar, like if we give them this hadith, if we tell them this, like they won't feel anything. They won't feel anything. So the fact that you felt it, let me ask you, how many of you felt fear when I was saying the last hadith or explaining it? How many of you felt that fear in your heart? And that fear, it's a very good thing. It's a very good thing. And every single scholar had that fear. Regardless of how great he was, he had that fear. He had that fear. And, I think I've mentioned it in this session before. When I went to Imam Shafi'i's masjid, like there's a board outside it. There's a board outside it that says that لست من أحب الصالحين ولست منهم. Imam Shafi'i is saying that I love the righteous, but I'm not among them. Like even Imam Shafi'i, like he really feared like being like labeled as righteous. So every single scholar had this fear, and this fear is actually what led them to the heights of doing ibadah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, so now, we get to a very, very important topic. And with that, we'll be ending, inshallah. And that topic is with regards to seeking knowledge, the practical ways we have to choose to seek knowledge. Before that, let me ask you, do you wish to seek knowledge? Do you wish to seek knowledge? Now, just like I mentioned earlier, a lot of people still think that the door is closed. The door is closed. But by the end of the session, inshallah, you'll get a proper clarity on how you can go ahead, regardless of what situation you are in, regardless of whether you are a student, whether you're preparing your entrance examinations, regardless of whether you're an engineer or a doctor working 24/7 and coming back to home like late at night, the door is still open to you. Even if you're a housewife having 10 children to take care of, the door is still open for you. The door is still open for you. So it's up to you to seek knowledge. I'll show you the door. It's your choice whether you want to go ahead or not. But if you saw the opportunity and you did not take it, Allah will question you about it. And it's going to lead to a lot of regrets. There's a beautiful Arabic saying that says, فرص الحياة كالطير ليس لها قرار, which basically means that the opportunities in life are like birds. Like if you just open the cage, the bird will fly away. You're not going to get it back, man. You're not going to get it back. So just grab and hold the opportunity. A lot of people, some of the people, like they know like the different ways they can seek knowledge, but they say to themselves, okay, maybe I'll do it afterwards. Maybe, after this semester, maybe, after this examination, or maybe after I finish this course, maybe, after I get married and have children, right? But life is not just going to get easy. Like we have this delusion about the future that one day life is going to get easy, right? Like this is a delusion, a matrix that's been fed to us by the system. by the system since childhood. Like it's I would say it's an output or a result of direct brainwashing. Like we have this hope that, okay, that hope is natural. At the same time, this deluded expectation, a utopian expectation that one day after I do that, life is going to become great, right? Like for me, it took, I think I realized this like when I got to college. Before that, like everyone used to say, man, it's 10th standard. Like 10th standard is the like turning point in your life. Like if you pass 10th standard, or if you get like full A plus in 10th standard, man, khalas, like you are settled for life, right? So I just focus on 10th standard, like 10th standard, like studying 24/7, going to different, educational, tuition centers, right? And then like you do 10th standard, you get like full A plus. And then what happens after that? What do they tell you then? What do they tell you then? It's really funny. It's really funny. After that, man, 12th. If you get good marks for 12th, that is the turning point of your life, man. You get good marks, you get into IIT, you get into AIMS, you're settled for life, man. You're settled of life. You're settled for life. And then you basically study like an animal, like 24/7, trying to get into these, pass these entrance examinations and getting into a good college, right? And then some people I know, a lot of my friends got into NITs, like they thought that they were settled for life. But anyway, I don't want to discourage people who are preparing for entrance examination. Anyway, so when you get into the college, they'd say, man, if you pass college, there's going to be campus placements. You're going to be settled for life, man. You're going to be settled for life, right? Or maybe for some people it'll be marriage. They say, sister, brother, if you marry to that girl, if you get married to that man, oh man, you just settle for life, man. You just settle for life. And then you get married. And then, your husband or your wife or your family members, like they start asking you questions. What do you think the first question is going to be after maybe 5 months of marriage? What is it going to be? Like there's a specific, phrase in Malayalam, but I don't want to say it. It's people here who may not understand Malayalam may feel discriminated, right? Like they'll say, haven't you got a child? Like we're waiting for a child. Like everyone is waiting for a child, right? Everyone is waiting for a child. And then you think, okay, when I have a child, man, like that's it. After that, I can rest. For the mothers here, let me ask you, have you rested after having children? Have you rested after having children? Like, subhanAllah. So I remember, someone asking my mother the same question. My mother actually had 5 boys, right? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless her with ease and happiness. Okay, so once you have, children, they say that you're settled for life. Or the people who pursued careers, they say, once you have this career, you're settled for life. But then once you get into a career, they'll say, once you get this promotion, you're settled for life. And after you get your promotion, they say, okay, once you're retired, you're settled for life, right? Like it's a never-ending cycle, man. Like you're never ever going to be, having an easy life. Like it's not there. Maybe, temporary fluctuations in the chart of, easiness might be there, but you're not going to get permanent peace and happiness. Where do you think you're going to get permanent peace and happiness? Where is that place that you're going to find permanent peace and happiness? Where? It's in Jannah, man. It's in Jannah. Like this dunya was created for this purpose. If Allah wanted to make life perfect for you, then He would have just put you in Jannah. Dunya by nature, it was not supposed to be simple. It was not supposed to be simple. Today morning, like it's very coincidental that we're having this discussion now. Today morning, I had my Ajrumiyya classes, and the person who was teaching me is Sheikh Ayman, who I really respect and love. He's my teacher. And like amidst the explaining the Nahw classes, like Arabic morphology, like it gets really boring at times because like it's very complicated stuff. So, he gives personal stories from his life. So to make it a bit more interesting. And today, like he was talking about, his life. He was talking about his life, and it was really funny. It was shocking because he went through a lot of challenges in his life. Like there was a time he was like working as a painter. And he just explained it. And then after, like he said something, I can't remember the exact phrase, but he said, "Mata'u dunya fi mashakilihi." Or I think I'm just paraphrasing. He's saying that the happiness of life isn't its problems. And the whole class just laughed. Like, what are you saying, Sheikh? Like the happiness of life isn't problems. And then he explained it, but then he added another joke. And he said that his happiness actually increased after marriage, which basically meant that his problem increased too. It was just a joke. Anyway, so what I'm basically saying is, uh, problems are always going to be there. Like, if you just wait to get to that resting place to seek knowledge, you're not going to seek knowledge. You're never ever going to seek knowledge. All right. So the thing is, the mindset you should first be having to seek knowledge is to start now. If you don't start now, you're not going to start any day. You're not going to start any day, right? So stop procrastinating and get to it. And just understand that it's never ever too late to seek knowledge. The door is open. The door is open. Some people think that they didn't go to an Islamic college, they didn't get a madrasa education in childhood, so like it's too late. I don't even know Arabic harf or huruf or lughat al-Arabiyyah. How am I going to seek knowledge? I don't even know how to do proper qira'ah, how to properly read the Holy Quran. How am I going to seek knowledge? And to those, let me give you a few stories. Here, I actually, mentioned that my sheikh died in Qahira. So I changed my studying place to a place called Subk al-Ahad in Egypt. This is like a village, a proper Egyptian village. And students from across the world, about 50 countries, they come here to learn. And they're of a lot of different backgrounds. And being a student of psychology, one thing that I do is I talk to a lot of people, and I, get to know their stories, and I, build connections and friends here. So there's actually a friend, like he's right in the next room. Like, I'm speaking from my room, he's like sitting in the next room. Khalid, he's from South Africa. He's 33 or 35 years old, I think. I don't know exactly, I don't remember his exact age, but he basically has a family, he has a child. Like, he converted to Islam. He sold his car just so that he can have money to come to Egypt and do talab al-ilm. And I also shared the story of Najmuddin. If you remember, a brother from Eritrea who traveled a lot in his childhood just so that he can seek knowledge, just so that he can seek knowledge. And a brother, he just came last week. He's from Russia. He's from Tatar. I don't know how many of you know Tatar. Tatar is actually a place, Tataristan is actually in Russia. And he came to do talab al-ilm. Like, these people, like, they're not very young people. Like, they're in their late 20s and 30s and 40s. These people are still doing talab al-ilm because they know the value of it. The amount of sacrifices that these people are doing is great. And the brother that came from Russia, he has a lot of problems going on back in Russia, but he sacrificed a lot to come to Egypt and do talab al-ilm. And funny thing is, the brother, he doesn't speak Arabic. He only speaks Russian. So we basically communicate through sign language. I guess it's a fun experience. He speaks to me in Russian, and I speak back to him in Arabic. Like, it's really fun if you watch it. Anyway, so may Allah bless the brother. May Allah make it easy for him. So there are people who come from across the world, sacrificing a lot of things just so that they can speak, they can seek knowledge, they can do talab al-ilm. And look at ourselves. We need to look at ourselves, our situation. We didn't need to convert to Islam. We have a supportive family, or we might have Muslim families. These people, like, to even get out of the brother from France, Abdurrahman, to just get out of from France and come to Egypt, like, the amount of struggle he had to go through is great. He slept on the streets for 3 days. He worked in Uber, food, distributing food so that he can just amass a few amount of euros just so that he can find money for the ticket to come to Egypt and learn. Subhanallah. So look at yourselves and compare to these people. And these people, like Abdurrahman, he just turned 20. That he's 20 years old. So look at ourselves. We need to look at ourselves, and we need to properly introspect. Like, what are we doing here? If we go back to Akhirah with our engineering degrees and MBBS, it's not going to have a lot of value. I can tell you that. So seek talab al-ilm. Now, there are people who say that I'm too busy to seek knowledge. All right. Some people think that coming to Egypt, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, it's not possible for me. Do you feel it's not possible for you to come to Egypt, or go to Yemen, or go to Saudi, or go to Kuwait, or go to these, foreign Arab countries where you have no contacts, no connections? Do you feel like it? If you feel like it, say yes in the chat. Because if you do, then also don't worry. Don't worry. Like, you have opportunity to seek knowledge just in your own home. You have the opportunity to seek knowledge just in your own home, just by sitting on your chair, like just by using internet connection. And I'll explain it in the upcoming slide, inshallah. So the other, excuse people give to themselves is like, I'm too busy to seek knowledge. I'm too busy to seek knowledge. I know people who tirelessly work all day. They might be truck drivers. They might be working in the streets, cleaning the streets. There might be doctors working in emergency departments, like all day long and all night long, and they come back and they still find time to read the books and get the knowledge. They still find time to get the knowledge. When we read the history of Imam Nasr ad-Din al-Albani, it's amazing. It's amazing. He used to find time to do talab al-ilm while working as a watchmaker, or repairing the watches. Subhanallah. Subhanallah. So the thought that you are too busy to seek knowledge, like, that's a lie that you tell yourself. Let me tell you something else. A lot of these excuses of busyness, it's all lies. All right, it's all lies. It's just about priority. If a person says that I'm too busy for you now, it just means that he is prioritizing you, or prioritizing something over something else. Like, that's just what it basically plainly means, right? So saying that I'm too busy to seek knowledge actually shows like your quality of iman. Like, you're prioritizing something else over deen. You're prioritizing something else over something that you should be doing. Talab al-ilmi faridatun ala kulli Muslim. Seeking knowledge is mandatory on every Muslim. Is mandatory on every Muslim. And when you start seeking knowledge, Allah will open for you doors. Allah will open for you doors. And there was a person who messaged, I think it was 3 weeks ago. I don't remember who it was or what time it was. But, I do remember the content of the message. And it was this: they said that they're studying in a central university, and like, they had a lot to study. They had a lot to study. They had, examinations. They're doing, a liberal art bachelor's. So they have a lot to learn. I can't do talab al-ilm now. And they were, giving, their own justifications, like very reasonable justification. But then what I told them back is this: like, all the problems that you have, when you start to seek knowledge, Allah will open for you doors and He will solve it for you. So this is your door to actually better your life and improve yourself and develop yourselves. Talab al-ilm is your path to that. Talab al-ilm is your path to that. In tansurullaha yansurukum. If you help Allah, Allah will definitely help you. Fadhkuruni adhkurukum. If you remember Allah, Allah will remember you. Allah will remember you. So think about this particular thing and understand very deeply that talabul ilm can actually change your life, can change your life, can turn the tables around, And seeking knowledge, like, it's not like, a 1 year thing. Like, some people, like, they just do like, okay, if I go to Egypt, if I go to Saudi, if I go to, certain places and do this and that for 1 year, and then I become a talib al-ilm. Is that how it works? Is that how it works? Obviously, no. Seeking knowledge is a continuous journey. It's a continuous journey. And the scholars that I've seen here, like, they continuously read and they continuously improve ourselves. And we actually live at a time when the number of students of knowledge, like, is the most it has ever been in history. We talk about the golden age of Islam. But today, if you actually compare the amount of students of knowledge today, like, it's much, much greater. The amount of universities we have across the world, like, it's huge. It's incomparable to the past. We have Jami' al-Madina. We have a lot of universities in Mecca. We have a lot of universities in Pakistan and Bangladesh. We have a lot of universities, Azhar University, Jami'at al-Qahira in Egypt. There are a lot of universities in Kuwait. They're providing scholarships. And a lot of people, like, they really don't know the opportunities, very sadly. They really don't know the opportunities. Like, if you just have, your 10th standard certificate or your +2 certificate, you can opt for the scholarship. And you can travel. Like, everything will be paid for you. Everything that you will need to live, it will be paid for you, and you can learn in these universities. but you have to seek out. Like without seeking out, you're not going to gain these opportunities. Like it's not going to come and fly, to your window and knock on your door and wake you up from the sleep. It's not going to do that. You gotta search and you gotta find them. You gotta search and you gotta find them. That's how it works. That's how it works. Okay, so before going to the online opportunities, let me just explain the offline opportunities first, and then we'll get to the online opportunities, inshallah. Now, a lot of people in the United States, they do this, but like people in Kerala, like I've seen very few people in the Kerala with this concept. Like many of the people that like they really don't know the opportunities like that are there in Egypt, that are there in Egypt. And a few brothers from Kerala, like a brother, a friend of mine who used to be a junior at my college, he also has taken 1 year off and he came to Egypt just so that he can do talab al-ilm. It's like with 1 year and 1.5 years, like you can just memorize the entire Holy Quran, get a good grasp of Arabic language. Like you'll just get the key to Dirasat al-Islamiyya. You'll just get the key to Dirasat al-Islamiyya. Like it's just 1 year. It's just 1 year. Like there are many countries that have numerous Islamic educational centers. Numerous Islamic educational centers. All right. Now, a lot of people, they say that money is a problem. A lot of people, they say that money is a problem. Yes, it's a very justified, rational, and logical reasoning. At the same time, like when you go outside and learn, like for example, Egypt, like staying here in Egypt doesn't cost much. Maybe like the same as staying in India. Like you spending your life in your homeland, like right now, like that's the same amount of money that it would take for you to come to Egypt and live in Egypt. Like it's not that expensive to live in Egypt. So I'm just talking about Egypt, all right? Maybe in Kuwait and Saudi, it might be a bit expensive, right? So if you actually search out for opportunities, you can actually get them. You can actually get them. And in Egypt, like there are multiple ways of seeking knowledge. Let me just give you a brief of that, and then we'll go to online opportunities. So here in Egypt, you can either join Azhar University. Azhar University has you can join Azhar University, but for that you'll need proper certificates. So a lot of people, they don't have clear documentation, and therefore they may not be able to directly join Azhar University. But still, it's possible to join Ma'hadu al-Lughatu Ma'hadu Thanawiyya. So you can directly join for that. Like all you would need is just a 10th standard certificate. All right. All the other opportunity you have is like without any certificates. Without any certificates, you can still join for Ma'had al-Lugha. Like there are a lot of centers for learning Arabic language and Islamic studies that you can directly learn, in these Ma'had. And they have certain mustawiyat, like a lot of different levels. Once you finish the 15 levels, like you'll be really strong on your Arabic language. Like there are opportunities for that. And the Ma'had, like it's not just for boys, like it's just for girls. There are many Ma'had for girls, many Ma'had for the girls. Like there are women like from across the world who travel in groups. For example, I've recently heard that a lot of sisters from Indonesia, they just came. They came together and they're learning together, friends. They just, they talk to their parents and they said that, okay, we're just, planning to take 1 year off from our studies. They traveled, they came and they're learning. And after that, they'll go back, right? So the opportunities are there for boys and for girls. It's equally available. It's equally available, right? Now, for a lot of people traveling to another country and, doing talab al-ilm, it may not be possible due to their life circumstances. All right, life circumstances. Let me ask you, do you feel like that? Do you feel that it is not possible for you to travel to another country? Do you feel that it's not possible for you to travel to another country? And let me tell you, like, okay, traveling to another country, like, I'm just explaining it in a very simple manner. It's not easy. There are a lot of complications involved. Now, when I say complications, it's just, document procedures and all these things. Might be a bit stressful. So a lot of people may not have the proper, should I say, technicalities or facilities to travel to another country. Let me tell you, today you have a huge ni'mah that was not present for any other student of knowledge for the past 1,400 years. And that is the ni'mah of internet. That you can sit in your own home and get the same knowledge that the students here are getting. Like you don't need to travel thousands of miles. You can stay in your own home and you can get the same knowledge, like the exact same thing that the students here are getting. Like the only difference would be that, you may not be in the same environment. For example, here, like, for example, for us to learn Arabic language, it might be a bit easier because like we're living in an Arab country and we're speaking, like when we go outside, we have to speak in Arabic, right? But then except for that, like every single thing will be same. The content, the syllabus, everything will be same for you. And that's where we're going to be talking about the online opportunities. So just understand that the online opportunities that you have, it's amazing. Like that's a world that you need to explore. For example, how many of you participated in the session yesterday? How many of you participated in the session yesterday? Now, the sister who took the session, she's actually a talibatul ilm. And how is she seeking knowledge? Is she like going to other Arab countries for seeking knowledge? No. She's seeking knowledge from the comfort of her own home. She's married. She's having her, family responsibilities, but at the same time, she's able to do it in her own home. And like she's gaining a lot of knowledge just by sitting in her own home. She's a student of Al Balagh Academy. So there are a lot of opportunities and it's not expensive. Like it'll not even cost half of what you're spending in your college. Or should I say quarter of that? It's not even going to cost that, right? So there are multiple opportunities. I'm going to name a few opportunities, inshallah. The first one is AMAU. How many of you have heard about AMAU? This is highly, highly recommended. Now, why I say it's highly recommended is because I checked their entire syllabus. I checked what they're teaching, how they are teaching it. And subhanallah, let me tell you this, the syllabus they have is better than some of the centers here in Egypt. Like few students traveling from their country to study in those centers, you'll get a better, education from AMAU sitting in your own, comfort of your own homes. If you learn under, AMAU, so it's amazing. It's simply amazing. So AMAU is an amazing opportunity. Let me give you another idea too. All right, I'm just giving you a new idea. You can implement it if you want. If you have friends like my COG group, you have a lot of sisters, you have a lot of brothers, right? Who may want to do talabul ilm together, right? We are companions of Jannah. Like there's a reason why it's called as companions of Jannah. To be companions of Jannah, you got to be companions in the dunya. And the best form of companionship, the best way to spend this companionship is in talabul ilm. So like it's possible for you to start, your own my COG group and, name it seekers of knowledge. And then the brothers who would like to, participate in talabul ilm, like, they can choose a particular course and then they can do it with a clear-cut structure. You can implement it in your own, groups, right? And you can have the muhasabah meet every week to see your progress, right? You can have that. The sisters can have that. The brothers can have that. When I say brothers segregated, sisters segregated, all right? I don't want this to turn into some matrimony. Somebody sent me a message earlier, saying something similar to that. I read that and I just laughed, right? So what I'm saying is the opportunity is there, all right? The opportunity is there. Companions of Jannah, like that platform is open for you. You can make use of this platform and you can do talabul ilm together. You can do talabul ilm together and that's going to be beautiful. That's a friendship that you all need to be aiming for. Then we have Al Balagh Academy, we have Cambridge Muslim College, Cambridge Islamic College, Sapiens Institute, Al-Asna Institute, Baina Institute. So there are a lot of institutes that are available to seek knowledge. The only question is this: do you want to seek knowledge? Do you want to seek knowledge? Like that's the only question that you need to answer. And then the door is open for you. And for the brothers and sisters, like who may have a lot of complications in front of them, don't worry. Just get started, man. Just get started. And these problems will just get removed from your path. Right. I was also a student of a particular subject. I'm a graduate of psychology. Like for me, I took like a pause from my life and I came to Egypt. And it is still possible. Like I can still go back to maybe UK or the US and I still can continue my master's or my PhD. Like, just because you took a pause from your life, to do talabul ilm, like it doesn't mean like everything has ended. No, like you can take it all parallel. It's still possible. You can take all in parallel, doing your bachelor's and still doing talabul ilm, There are engineers who did talabul ilm, like while they were studying for their engineering. There are people studying in +1 and +2 who are doing talabul ilm. There are people who are doing their bachelor's in political science, in biotechnology, in physics and chemistry, doing MBBS and doing talabul ilm. So why are you not? Why are you not? Subhanallah. So it only takes that motivation inside you to get you to another level of your life, So, the online opportunities are endless. There's a few institutes, all right? I've just given you a speck. I've just given you a speck, maybe a pixel, but the picture is much larger. The picture is much larger. Maybe, we'll have one discussion topic as during the COGM discussion, the online opportunities for Talab al-Ilm, and a lot of brothers and sisters, you're going to have a discussion together, and then, you can choose a good institute for you. You can choose a good institute for you. And some of these institutes, like, they're very specific. All right. For example, Sapiens Institute, like, you can't learn Arabic morphology and subjects regarding Arabic linguistics in those. All right. Sapiens Institute and Alistair Institute, they just basically deal with argumentations and debates and with regards to liberalism, feminism, really wonderful, beautiful, really in-depth materials, really, really give you perspective. For example, like, if you're doing political science, if you chose certain courses from Alistair Institute or Sapiens Institute, it'll really help you, like, advance in your course as well. It'll give you much wider perspective, right? Al-Balagh Academy has an Alamiya course, which I think the sister who took the session yesterday is doing. So there are multiple opportunities for you, The only question is, are you willing? Are you willing? So the door is now open for you. The question is, let me ask you, are you ready to enter? Are you ready to enter? Because the intention that you keep now, if you die with it tonight, the rewards that you're going to get is huge. It's literally huge. So just have that intention deep in your heart to do Talab al-Ilm. Regardless of what your situation is, don't worry. All right. Regardless of whether you're 40 years old, 50 years old. Let me tell you something else. In the Ajrumiya class that we're having here, the Arabic morphology class, like, the people sitting right in front of me, like, one brother, I think he's 7 or 8 years old. His name is Ibrahim and he's from Sudan. All right. 8 or 7 years old. And right beside him is sitting, I think he might be about 53 or 54 years old. Like, right beside him. Like, they're both sitting in the same class. Like, Ibrahim is my classmate. I don't know, it feels a bit embarrassing to say too, but he's my classmate. Like, that guy, I sit beside him, right? I sit beside him and we are classmates. Like, we are actually brainwashed to think that, like, at a certain age, we have to stop our education. Like, who told you to stop your education at the age of 21? Like, we have this brainwashed mindset. Like, this age we have to finish our bachelor's, this age we have to finish our master's, and this age we have to get into a job, and this age we have to do this and we have to do that. Like, who gave you this timeline? Subhanallah. In Islam, like, we don't have that timeline in Islam. Like, in Sharia, we don't have that timeline. You can do talab al-ilm min al-mihbara ma'a al-mihbara hatta al-makhbara, which is a saying of Imam Ahmad al-Hanbal, which basically means with the inkwell to the graveyard, which basically means I'm going to seek talab al-ilm, I'm going to seek knowledge from the cradle to the grave. From the cradle to the grave, that should be the mindset that we should all be having. So with that, inshallah, we're going to stop now with an update on a power task. So from today onwards, you're going to be having something called as DRT. Let me ask you, how many of you would like to read? How many of you like to read books? Now, if you'd like to read books, it's a big opportunity for you guys. You're going to have a daily reading task. And let me also, give you a heads up of something called as COJ Iqra Reading Club. So there's going to be something called as COJ Iqra Reading Club. More information with regards to this and more updates with regards to this will be given in the group later on, inshallah. So the power task is for you to read, a small amount of pages a day. The book has already been chosen. It's a book by Dr. T.K. Harris. Anyway, more information will be given to you later on, inshallah. And let me end with a pro tip. It's a quote by David Bailey. The best advice I ever got was that knowledge is power and to keep reading, Now, you don't necessarily need to love reading, all right? Some people, they may not be reading people, all right? They may not be finding the concept of reading very appealing. It's all right. It's all right. Even for me, like a lot of books that I read, I don't read it like because I really love to read that book. No, I read it because I know the result it's going to have. I know the outcome that is going to give. I know the consequences of it and how much it can improve my life. So whether you like it or not, like if you just start it like slowly, reading a few number of pages a day, if you maintain the consistency, subhanallah, it's going to be phenomenal. It's really, really going to affect your life. Your perspectives are going to change a lot, inshallah. Inshallah. So read the quote again. The best advice I ever got was that knowledge is power. The more knowledge you acquire, the more powerful you become. Regardless of what background you have, regardless of what color of skin you have, regardless of what status you have in the society, regardless of how much money you have, regardless of how famous or how non-famous you are, regardless of who you are, if you acquire knowledge, you will become powerful. And this is not just a secular concept. This is deeply rooted in our religion, because Allah said that He will raise the scholars. He will raise the scholars. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us all with the ability to seek knowledge. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us all with consistency, because I know a lot of people who started on this journey, but they don't end the journey, or they don't continue with the journey because they lost consistency. So consistency is very important. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all the ability to stay consistent on this path. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala unite us all in Jannah, just like He united us here in this dunya. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا إننا نسألك حبك وحب من يحبك وحب عمل يقرب إلى حبك. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. Ameen Ya Rab. Jazakallahu khairan qasira, Brother Wafi, for such a beautiful session. I would like to invite Sister Rajwa for the conclusion session.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Knowledge, one of the easiest paths to Jannah. Angels lower their wings in pleasure for the seeker of knowledge. Everything in the heavens and the earth pray for forgiveness, even the fish in the depth of sea. What more can we dream about? May Allah grant us all beneficial knowledge which help ourselves and our ummah. And always remember that you have to struggle for knowledge. It doesn't come to your comfort zone. Jazakallah khairan kathira, Brother Wafi Shihad, for the amazing session. Indeed, this was one of the best sessions in the IPD. And Sister Sana for your moderation, and Sister Fadia for the qira'at, Sister Sophia for the introduction, and last but not least, to all my brothers and sisters who joined the session. May Allah accept from us all. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.